Li Yukine was the fourth wife of Puyi, the last emperor of China. However, in 1945, Li Yukine's life as an imperial concubine had abruptly come to an end. As a result, she faced a lot of discrimination because she married the emperor, whom many people believed to be a traitor. Consequently, she struggled with poverty as she desperately tried to find a good job, but couldn't find any. Additionally, she attracted hatred from society for being the emperor's wife. Throughout her life, she encountered numerous hardships and setbacks, ultimately leading to her decision to divorce the last emperor of China. Today we'll explore the tragic life of the last imperial concubine. Li Yukine was a Han Chinese woman who was born in Changchun to a middle-class family from Shandong. At the age of 11, she was sent to Beijing to attend a school run by the Manchukuo regime, which had been established in 1931 by the Japanese occupiers. Puyi had been deposed as the last emperor of the Qing dynasty by the revolution, and in 1934 he was appointed by the Japanese as their puppet emperor. His Empress Wanrong was addicted to opium, and more out of the picture, and his first concubine had divorced him, thus opening up a need for a new bride. As a puppet emperor, he was told to take a Japanese bride, but the emperor did not trust Japanese women. As a compromise, he agreed to marry a Manchurian girl from a Japanese-run school. He chose the 15-year-old Li Yukine from photographs, because she seemed innocent and easy to manipulate. Once he made his decision, the Japanese went to her home and told the family that Li Yukine was selected to become Emperor Puyi's student. She would study under Emperor Puyi and go to college. Her parents were suspicious about what it meant to be the emperor's student. They initially refused but submitted to the emperor's will. Li Yukine packed her schoolbooks and bade farewell to her family. When she arrived there in 1943, she was given a bath and deloused before being presented to Puyi. On first impressions, she found the emperor very kind and younger looking than his 37 years. After insisting that she eat something, he asked her to sleep with him. She demurred, protesting that she had come there to study, a situation that he accepted with good grace. Despite her initial misgivings, Li Yukine and Puyi soon grew fond of each other. In April 1943, Li Yukine married Emperor Puyi. They were married in a European style rather than a traditional Chinese wedding. Shortly after, the emperor conferred upon Li Yukine the title of Noble Lady Fu. While the couple was happily married, their physical relations were blighted by his impotence. 2 years later, the Manchukuo regime collapsed, and the imperial family was forced to leave the palace. The imperial family left Changchun and sought refuge in Dalizhigu. However, the situation grew so dire that Emperor Puyi began to fear for his life. Thinking solely of his own safety, he left Lady Fu and Empress Wanrong behind, vulnerable and alone. Lady Fu meanwhile spent a miserable time with the empress, who was suffering from opium withdrawal, before being arrested by the Soviet forces and sent to prison in Changchun. Because both Empress Wanrong and Lady Fu were abandoned by Emperor Puyi, they started to depend on each other. They were so grateful for each other's company because they did not know the outcome of their situation. Since Noble Lady Fu was a hostage under the Chinese army, she was under intense observation. The Chinese army asked her to join the army, but her unwavering loyalty to Emperor Puyi led her to refuse. Consequently, they began to pressure her to dissolve her marriage with the emperor. They assured her that she could go home to her family once the divorce was finalized. Initially, Lady Fu resisted, because of her deep affection for the emperor and her belief in the importance of marital fidelity. However, the army employed a strategic approach by facilitating a visit from her parents, who further persuaded her to end her marriage and return home. Faced with limited options, Lady Fu reluctantly concluded that agreeing to the divorce was the only viable course of action. She wrote a divorce letter and she was permitted to return home. However, the divorce letter was deemed insufficient to finalize the divorce. Therefore, Lady Fu continued to be recognized as Emperor Puyi's legal wife. She felt guilty about leaving Empress Wanrong behind, but there was nothing she could do. She went home, where she grieved for betraying her beloved husband. She tried to sought solace from becoming a Buddhist nun. Unfortunately, none of the nunneries would accept her because she was a member of the Chinese imperial family. In the year of 1946, Lady Fu left her parents' home to live with Emperor Puyi's relatives in Tianjin. However, the imperial family often had to fight hunger. There was not enough food, therefore the imperial family oftentimes went hungry. To make matters more challenging, Lady Fu was not from the Manchu Eight Banners clan. The emperor's relatives started to look down on her. Instead of receiving the respect she deserved, Lady Fu was relegated to menial work, tasked with laundry duties and other chores. In an act of utter indifference, her pleas for basic necessities like toilet paper fell on deaf ears, denying her even the most fundamental comforts. She stayed with Emperor Puyi's family for 7 years. In 1953, she decided to go back to Changchun to take care of her sick mother while still waiting for news of Emperor Puyi. From 1953 to 1956, Lady Fu went through a series of temporary jobs such as working in food factories, as a governess, cleaner, and as a printing factory worker. Throughout this period, Lady Fu persistently sought information about Emperor Puyi's whereabouts, but her search yielded no fruitful results. She did not know whether her husband was dead or alive. It was not until the summer of 1955 that Lady Fu received a letter from her husband. She was so relieved and happy to have received word from Emperor Puyi. The letter stated that he was currently a prisoner in Fushan, China. Lady Fu wrote him a heartfelt letter back. The letter that Emperor Puyi received touched him so deeply while he was undergoing difficulties in prison. She was determined to stand by her husband's side, thus made the arduous journey to visit him in prison not once, but 3 times. Each visit came at a great cost, as she had to borrow money from her friends in order to pay him those visits. While Emperor Puyi was genuinely happy to see her, seeing Emperor Puyi in prison reminded Lady Fu of her hardships. Her life had been marked by sacrifices and trials, yet the emperor seemed unaware of the depth of her suffering and the sacrifices she had made for him. Emperor Puyi also did not seem like he would get out of prison anytime soon. Lady Fu began to wonder if it was worth it to remain married to the emperor. In August of 1956, Lady Fu finally got a job as a librarian at Changchun City Library. She loved her job so much. However, she was given an ultimatum. She either had to divorce Emperor Puyi or lose her job. Lady Fu did not want to quit her job. Therefore, she decided it was time to discuss divorce with Emperor Puyi. On the 25th of December of that same year, Lady Fu visited Emperor Puyi in prison and painfully told him that she wanted a divorce. Emperor Puyi was heartbroken to hear Lady Fu's request to divorce him. He told her he would never agree to it. However, Lady Fu was determined. She told him she wanted to have a normal life and be free from discrimination. Throughout the conversation, Lady Fu was crying because she was still in love with him and did not want to part from him. Emperor Puyi went back to his cell, where he broke down in tears about the inevitable ending of his marriage to Lady Fu. He asked the Chinese government for help in reconciling his marriage with Lady Fu. During her 5th visit, the government allowed Emperor Puyi to cohabit with his wife. The couple was given a room with a double bed. This was the only time that they had ever consummated their marriage. The government had hoped that this would lead to a reconciliation between the couple. Instead, it only strengthened Lady Fu's resolve to divorce Emperor Puyi. In 1957, Lady Fu officially filed for divorce. A year later the divorce was granted. She no longer held the title of Noble Lady Fu. She was married to Emperor Puyi for 15 years. She soon became a member of the Central Committee of the Chinese Communist Party. In 1958, Lady Fu married Huang Yugong, an engineer at Jilin Provincial Radio Station. The couple had a son. On the 24th of April 2001, Lady Fu died of cirrhosis in Changchun. Her death represented the passing of Imperial China and the Qing dynasty.